What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. Take a look at this. Check this out. Multiple different things here for you guys in this video. Okay, first up, prescription drug makers looking to limit Medicare's new power to negotiate lower prescription drug pricing. Yeah, if you know anything, the price of prescription drugs has gone up exponentially here over the last several years and over the last decade. And you can see here the industry tries to ease the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act as regulators start to implement the new law. Yeah, so they know that it's going to lower the cost of prescription drug pricing for America and for people on Medicare. So the prescription drug makers are trying to not lower the cost for Americans, which is just sad, isn't it? Remember here that the VA, Veterans Affairs, actually has been able to lower or negotiate prescription drug pricing for many years. And for some reason, the government hasn't been allowed to until this recent Inflation Reduction Act, which for some reason Republicans are against. I don't know why. Do we want higher prescription drug costs? But you can see here the Department of Veterans Affairs paid about half as much as Medicare Part D for multiple selected drugs almost every year or every year. This is just an article I looked up here that was published at the end of 2020, released in 2021. And also here, an article released by Senator Bernie Sanders that Medicare Part D pays twice as much as the same drugs as the VA veterans. So Medicare pays twice as much for the exact same drugs as the VA simply because Medicare is not allowed to negotiate the cost, which just seems absolutely absurd to me. So this is going to bring the cost of this down, which will mean that the cost of these prescription drugs will start to come down, and also ultimately over time, costs of healthcare could start to come down, like Medicare. And also, if we allow this to happen, seems like a no-brainer, the cost of private healthcare can start to come down as well. Remember that the United States pays more for healthcare and for prescription drugs than any other country in the world by a long shot. And again, I don't even understand why this is a Democrat, Republican issue, independent issue. This should just be a no-brainer issue. Like, are we sticking up for pharmaceutical companies that just gouge us to death? Just think about this as a realist, as an independent, as a person. Do we want to pay like hundreds and hundreds of dollars for things like insulin and life-saving prescription drugs, no matter what it is, which ultimately leads to higher healthcare costs, your premiums? It just doesn't really make sense. Remember, things like insulin cost a few dollars to make. It costs anywhere from like $2 to $10 to make on average for insulin, depending on the type. And yet they charge again, there's multiple different types of insulin, but they charge up to like $1,000, $700, $800, $1,000 for some type of insulin per month. Absolutely insane. So good thing is that's going to start to come and bring prices down. Really good thing here. Remember that Medicare Part B, if you're paying for that this year or at all, that's going to come down here this year. It's the first time in years that Medicare Part B is going down for 2023. It's going to go down by $5 and some change. Part of that is because last year it went up by $21 and some change. And part of that reason was because one prescription drug called Alduhelm, an Alzheimer's drug, was grossly overcharged. It was $56,000 when it was launched by Biogen. And they later graciously announced that they were going to reduce it to $28,200. $56,000 a year. This is the type of problem that happens when there's no regulation in the industries like the healthcare industry, like the oil and gas industry. They literally just charge you whatever they want. I mean, look at the price of gas. It's gone from less than $1 that we had years and years ago to, we recently had $5 gallon gas. If you're in California, $6, $7 gallon gas. Remember that OPEC plus nations, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and all the OPEC plus nations just announced that they're cutting oil by 2 million barrels per day so that they can raise the price of oil and gas all around the world because they want to charge more. Even though we actually do buy oil from OPEC, even though we're technically energy independent. The oil and gas companies, which really control the oil in the United States, remember the oil companies make the oil themselves in the U.S. They control whether or not they sell it or keep it in the US. It really doesn't matter if they keep it all in the US or not. This is a big misconception because it really doesn't affect the price of oil. They could keep all the oil in the US and it really wouldn't matter because the price of oil is traded on a global stock exchange. So if all the oil companies secretly decided tomorrow, let's keep all the oil here in the US, the price of oil wouldn't change. It's all decided on a stock market like exchange called the oil market. And here it is right now. Here's the current price of WTI crude, Brent crude, Murban crude, and natural gas. The four major ones that eventually get turned into gas, diesel, natural gas, and different types of gas. This is the number one major contributor to our gas prices, okay? But remember that the price of these are basically the same. I mean, different currencies and stuff, but it's the same thing, whether it's sold in the US, sold in Europe, sold in Canada. Of course, we have different currencies, US dollar, European dollar, Canadian dollar. But, just like if you sold a share of Apple stock or IBM stock, it's worth the same amount in the US or in Mexico or in Canada, no matter where it is, okay? So the oil companies control whether or not they want to sell it in the US or export it or import it. For the most part, economically, it makes sense for oil companies to not ship oil overseas if it's pumped here, out of the ground in the US, because it just think about it. It's cheaper to not have to ship it overseas. Think about how much money it costs just to ship stuff like that, hundreds of thousand miles away. They only do it if it makes economic sense for the oil companies, okay? Which they import oil and export oil on a daily basis if it makes sense for them. Just like the pharmaceutical industries do whatever makes sense for them. They're not doing what makes sense for you. They're doing what makes sense for them, whatever makes them the most money. Just like OPEC plus, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the OPEC plus nations just cut oil production by 2 million barrels so that they could make more money. Just like the Chevron CEO and all the gas companies and oil companies basically said that they're probably never going to make another refinery in the US because it doesn't make financial sense for them. And meanwhile, they've bought back $20 billion in stock from their stockholders this year, $20 billion, because that's what they want to spend money on. They don't want to invest in the US. They don't want to make more refineries because that would lower the price of gas. Then they would have more efficient output. They would have more. Remember, refineries is like the weak point in the US. We have, in fact, they've closed multiple refineries over the years, and where our refineries is one of the weak points. They said they'll probably never build another refinery. They haven't built a refinery in the US in over 50 years, back to the 1970s, okay? And the Chevron CEO said they're probably never going to. So I guess in another 50 years, we'll still be stuck with the same ones we have now or even less. Because if they build more, that would mean that we could have cheaper gas. And think about what happened. I mean, when I was in high school, gas was less than $1. Now we just seen average gas at $5 on the nationwide scale. And if you were in California, I mean, $6, $7. So think about where we're going to be in another 20 or 30 years. Are we going to have $10 a gallon gas? This is what the oil companies want. This is what the pharmaceutical companies want. They don't want to be regulated. They don't want to have lower prices. They want higher prices because higher prices means more money for them. And it's your money. It's my money. It's our family's money. Think about this. Yeah. So this is kind of the problem with the world today, is that if we're dependent on companies, there's a few things in life that we're dependent on that we really don't have a lot of choices on. Gas, food, but food we have choices on, right? We can buy different food. There's different brands of food. When you need gas, you can't really go. I mean, you have to go to the gas station, right? I mean, you can't really. I mean, you go to the gas station. There's like maybe one or two gas stations, and they're like the same price. Then they're all owned from, the gas companies are all in cahoots, right? There's only like a couple oil companies, right? You can't really, and they're the same price. They're maybe like 1 or 2 cents apart, right? You can't really, and the same thing with healthcare, pharmaceutical companies, and when you need healthcare, when you have a health problem, it's like thousands of dollars, right? Health insurance, thousands of dollars. And they say that America is the only country in the world where if you're sick, if you're dying, you got a health problem, you can go bankrupt from being sick. We're like the only first world country that doesn't guarantee you health care as a right. All these other first world countries, they give you health care. It's just, but here you can go bankrupt because of it. Yeah, it's a tough situation. In fact, medical debt is kind of changing right now. Medical debt, as of this summer, as of July 1st, medical debt may no longer hurt your credit score, and medical debt will start falling off of credit reports this summer based on some different parameters. Okay? The 3 credit reports, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, are removing cleared medical debt from consumers' credit report beginning in July. This means if you've paid your medical bills in full and the debt is still sitting on your credit report as a negative mark, this negative mark will now be removed. It's part of a larger effort by the Biden administration to decrease or eliminate medical debt as a part of the government lending decisions. For the millions of Americans that are battling an estimated $88 billion in medical debt, it's a big relief. Couple more things. Paid debt that was in collections will no longer be included on consumer credit reports. You'll have more time before unpaid medical debt is reported on your credit report. Unpaid medical debt that is currently in collections for 1 year will be reported on credit reports. This is an increase from 6 months that was enacted in 2017. So instead of 6 months, it will be 1 year. Starting in the first half of 2023, Equifax, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion will no longer include medical debt in collections under $500. So that won't even be on there if it's under $500. This will remove an estimated 70% of negative medical debt remarks, giving many a hopeful jump in their credit score. Also, if you've been watching my channel, you know that there's multiple different types of stimulus programs. There's been 3 stimulus checks on the federal level. There's 33 or more states sending out inflation relief checks, tax rebate checks, property tax relief checks. And there's federal programs going on all the time. Rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, child tax credits, a possible $2,400 a year raise to Social Security. And right now, the big massive program going on at this particular moment is student loan forgiveness. There's a court battle going on about it, but that would be $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan forgiveness for over 40 million Americans. It's a huge program, $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan debt forgiveness for over 40 million Americans. And what might the next program be? Well, there could be other types of debt forgiveness or other types of stimulus programs. Could there be credit card debt forgiveness? Could there be mortgage debt forgiveness? Could there be IRS tax debt forgiveness or medical debt forgiveness? These are very real possibilities. In fact, you can see here they're already considering some of these. You can see they've already been starting to take action on the medical debts that I just showed you here in the articles. And they already even have bills in Congress that they're trying to pass, like the Medical Debt Relief Act. I just showed you what the action they're taking with the credit bureaus and how they're helping consumers in that way. But they're actually going to try to do medical debt relief or medical debt forgiveness as well. So this could be potentially the next thing that could happen as well. And honestly, if you kind of think about medical debt, it's really one of the most unfair things there is. You get sick and then you could go bankrupt or have debt because you got sick. I mean, if there was ever a debt that should be wiped of any debt you could ever think of, it would probably be medical debt, because why should you have debt because you got sick? I mean, you let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Of course, there'll probably be some people that said, oh, no, don't help out sick people. But I mean, I don't know. You let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But I'll keep you up to date here on everything, because there are programs like this literally going on all the time. All the time. And make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Just click the subscribe button, then the bell icon that appears after you subscribe. And this way you won't miss out on our new videos that come out here on YouTube every day. 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when our new videos come out, and I'll keep you up to date. Don't forget to hit the like button for us as well, and you can click the share button if you want to share these videos with your friends or family, anybody you think might need to know about this as well. You can share this on Facebook or send this on Messenger or anybody to anybody you think here as well. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And here is my newest video about Social Security raises. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.